Good morning and welcome. Patriot Radio News Hour, Joe and Jason on this Monday. I hope it finds you well. I hope you had a wonderful, wonderful weekend and were able to, just put away those daily things that keep you up at night, at least for a few days before you have to get back to reality. And the realities are the debt bubble is here. The interest rates pushing ever higher. Treasury saying we've got to issue records amount of debt. Banks, reverse repos, running out of money. Countries flocking to gold. Another record first half of the year for gold buying. Of course, nobody's surprised, but that's why you guys tune in. 800-951-0592. That is our toll-free number. AllAmericanGold.com is our website. But we offer more than just gold and silver, because we tell you all the time, you got to be diversified. You can't have all your eggs in one basket. You get burned when you do that. But that's why we have places like Refi. That's why we have Joey come on every single Monday. It's mandatory now. If you're doing any type of 401k, IRA investing, you need a financial guy in your corner. And that's where Joey comes in. He'll help you navigate. Make sure that you don't set yourself up to get crushed when the markets are going against you. And at the same time, still do well when the markets are going with you. And again, it's something where they know that they set us up for failure. They know that, right? These 401k, it used to be you worked for a company, you worked there 20, 30, 40 years, you had a pension, they paid all of your health care, they paid for everything when you retired. And you know what? They got greedy. That's what it was. They just wanted to make more money. Let's make more people rich by a little bit, but let's make a lot more people poor, and that's what they've done in 401ks. You're lucky if once a year somebody comes in and hands you a folder. I mean, that's essentially all they give you. Now, this is supposed to be one of the most important things you can do for yourself financially, and that's all the help they give you. That tells you all you need to know. But, Joey, that's why you're here.
That's exactly why we're here, and we come on every Monday to give out our message. And it's just, I don't know, it worries me a lot when we talk to people and we've got a 401k, we don't know our balance, and we think that's our retirement plan or that's going to set us up. And a lot of people don't know how they're tracking for their life goals. And I think it's important, not only do we take a look at things like that, but we also educate you on how you're invested in it, what's the risk you're taking, what's the return you're going to get on this, and just make sure that what you're doing is in alignment with your own philosophy and your own comfortability inside your own planning. And that's just a small puzzle, a piece to the puzzle there. We're not looking at things midterm, 5 to 10 years. Your 401ks, your IRAs, those are locked up until 59 and a half. Right, that's money you're putting aside that you can't touch. Well, what happens when we want to plan for our kids' education or we want to put a down payment on a property? Right, all these different things come to play, and we want to make sure we're setting up our clients with different buckets of money, diversifying them, making sure they have different assets, things to check for things before age 59 and a half, because there's a ton of goals we have in our life before we even retire. So we want to make sure, hey, we're growing your wealth, we're doing things correctly, but we're also helping you out on the tax side of things. I was just talking to another guy the other day. He's funding into a Roth IRA when he's not legally allowed to. His income is too high, and, before he knows it, come April tax season, he's going to be paying 6% on what he put in there in taxes. If he had chatted with us a month, 3 months, 5 months earlier, those are things that could have been avoided, but he thanks us all the time. So he's like, hey, I didn't even know that. Let's make sure we're sitting down. We're taking a look at everything you're doing on the financial side and that we're doing things correctly and we're following the rules that the IRS puts in, so we're not hit with a tax bomb that we didn't even know about. And that's just the value we provide. Just chatting with us, we'll find things, we'll fine-tune things. You know, some clients give me the keys to the car and let me drive it. Some have me sit in the passenger seat and give directions. And others just have me check the engine, tweak a few things, and set them off. Let's make sure we're doing things the right way. And that just comes from a simple conversation with my team and I, and we're putting people in a way better spot than they were yesterday, which is just fantastic to see.
Yeah, and the big thing is most people don't really realize these rules change almost every single year. They're changing the rules, and so something that may have been allowed one year, come the next year, it's not allowed, and then something that wasn't allowed all of a sudden is allowed, and if they don't have anybody to tell them these things, it's really hard for them to even know.
Yeah, it's super hard to know, and the matter of fact is we live our daily lives. We have all of our own personal problems going on. It's almost impossible to keep track with on your own. You know, whereas I do this every day for 10 plus hours a day, and we're always on top of these things. You know, for example, this year you can contribute an extra $500 a month into your IRAs. Right? They're expanding the limits. Why? Because the cost of living is just increasing and growing. So I urge people to take a second look at everything. Let's make sure we're doing it the right way.
We'll be right back with more. Don't touch that dial. Patriot Radio News Hour.
Uh, 800-951-0592, the Patriot Radio News Hour, Joe. We got our guest Joey with us talking about options, right, Joe? Things that you can do that don't involve necessarily gold and silver. You know, we got him here every Monday.
Yeah, every Monday to come in and give you guys that opportunity to have the most success possible. You know, he talked about something as little as, hey, they changed the rules and allowed for an extra $500. And I know a lot of people are like, well, $500, you know, that's not life-changing. But the reality is $500 a month, every single month, right? That's $6,000 a year, and then all of a sudden, wait, you do that over 5 years, that's $30,000. Plus, Joey's helping you grow it. All of a sudden, hey, you could end up with an extra, you know, $40,000, $50,000. I mean, that's a big chunk of money, Joey.
It is a big chunk of money. It really is, and every dollar counts when we talk about planning for our future. Whether it's retirement, a 10-year goal, 5-year goal, even a short-term goal the next year. It's all super crucial. And I think one thing that I don't do a good enough job of doing when I come on here is explaining why I do what I do, why I love it, and why I'll never be leaving. Over these past few years, have found so much growth, not only with myself and my team, but with all the prospective clients that are putting our trust, you know, their trust in us. And, you know, you talk about finances, financial planning, money. I'm not an idiot. I know it's not everything. Money's not happiness, but it's such a crucial aspect of all of our lives. You know, without money, we can't do the things we want to do. We can't go on that vacation. We can't help the kids out. We can't leave something behind for our loved ones. And for me, I think why it's so important, as being a guy who's always grown up playing sports and competing at the highest level, I finally found something where I'm no longer competing, you know, on the field or on the court, but we're competing for all the individuals and families that put their trust in us. And it's fantastic. And I take a lot of pride in doing this, and I love it. So I get to go to work every day knowing that I'm putting people in a better spot. And not only that, but we're helping out different communities, educating them on finances, educating them on where they're at, and ultimately just giving people clarity and a new perspective on things. I don't think any client has ever left any of our meetings feeling down on themselves, but just excited for the future. You make a couple changes, it's so cool to see how you can change the trajectory of where you're going. And now it's turned into 3-4 year relationships with people. We're knowing each other on the personal side, and quite honestly, I know more about my clients than their best friends. We're able to talk about what's going on. There's no judgment zone, right? Everything we talk about is confidential, and end up learning about all these little things in people's lives that make them uncomfortable, and we sit down and have a chat about it. And it feels so good for people to get that out because someone is listening, and we're looking at it from a lens of how can we help and how can we put you in a better spot. We're not financially undressing people, right? They're coming in and they're telling us.
Oh, did we lose them? I think we lost them. So
what's going? I can hear you guys.
Joey, are you there?
We got you. We got you. Go ahead. Go ahead,
you
Joey.
just
We had
cut
a little
out there
blip
for a second.
What I'm saying is I love what I do, and it's awesome. It's amazing. Every day I get to wake up and know that I've got 100 people, 200 people that have put their trust in my team and I, and we're going to make sure you're getting the best service possible. I'm not going to guarantee we outperform the market. Not going to give you any of those spiels. The only guarantee I'll make is that we're going to put in the work and time that is necessary and needed to put you in a better spot, not only investment-wise, tax-wise, but just making sure we're tracking for the goals it is that you have in your life. And if you haven't reached out, you haven't made that phone call, and you want a zero expectation call and just a conversation, reach out to me. My 048. Again, that is 602.
Yeah, Joey, we got a bad connection. Joey, we got a bad connection. It happens sometimes. I'll give out Joey's number, 602-909-9048. Once again, that's 602-909-9048. And he's just there for you, right, Jason?
Yeah, you got other options going on. We sell gold and silver here every day. Joe's been doing it for years and years, Eric before him. And it's not the only thing in the world when it comes to your economy. I mean, you got cash, right? You got possibly a 401k. You've got all these other things going on. And then there's where are you going to put this retirement? How are you going to retire? There's all these different things that can be done. Gold and silver is not the only thing out there, although that's where I like to save my money. But there's other ways to handle your finances. Grow it, invest it. I mean, Joey's not big on riskier investments, but if you're younger, he'll show you some options to try to cash in on some opportunities that other people might not know about, Joe. But life insurance, all kinds of products available that comes from Joey and Northwestern Mutual, Joe.
Yeah, and people don't even realize the things that, like insurance, it's something where I had no idea. When I thought of insurance, you got your life insurance, right, and you got that long-term care stuff. This is not, I guess, your parents' or grandparents' insurance. So for a lot of people, believe it or not, that's some of the best way to invest because you really get that fixed rate of those fixed rates of returns. You're less risky. You know exactly what your money's going to do, especially for the people, right, that, hey, I did a good job. Hey, I was lucky. I started early. I advanced my career. I made it up the food chain. I didn't have, that disaster happen where I had to raid my 401k or raid my IRAs just to keep food on the table, and now I'm near retirement, and I don't need to be so risky. Those products, so there's a lot of things tax-wise. He talks about it all the time. 602-909-9048. That is Joey's number. We'll get him back next week. We obviously had some technical difficulties today. Must be some kind of, who knows, the sun and the solar flares, right, Jason?
Internet works mysteriously sometimes, for sure. Let's just say that. We're heavily dependent on the internet, the way we broadcast, with people in different places. So, sometimes it happens. But Joey got his message across like he does every Monday. It's an option that should be considered.
Yeah, without a doubt. As we're looking at what's happening here, not just what the news from last week, obviously still lingering in the markets with the amount of debt. All of a sudden, this avalanche of debt. Matter of fact, this week we'll start these increased auction sizes. And again, we got a refunding day, and actually I think they're going to do it over 3 days, where they've got to stick another couple $100 billion into the Treasury checkbook. It's going to be one of those things now, Jason, where we've taken the next step up on these debts now. All of a sudden, remember Janet Yellen, let's go big and everyone go nuts, and it doesn't cost us borrow. Well, this is the next leg up in America having to pay the piper and having issues with how are we going to finance all of this debt out there.
Yeah. This is the shell game, trying to figure out where are they going to put the ball into the shell and try to float something that has too many enemies against it succeeding. The Ponzi scheme is weak, so. We'll see as the info comes out, and then the Fed and the government makes decisions. We'll see how it goes, Joe. But I did notice some stories about bank CEOs at the big banks. A lot of them selling their stock, Joe, selling a lot of it. And what I took from these stories, Joe, was not just that bank CEOs are selling their stock, and this is over the course of 7 months or 12 months or 3 months. Sometimes you see CEOs sell stock. They're playing with the money a little bit. They're like, hey, like when the bank failures happened in March, they might have sold before that, and then they buy it back when there's some lower prices to be had to make some money. But what I've been seeing in the stories I've been reading, Joe, is that the bank CEOs are selling all their stock, and they're not buying anything back over a long period of time. They're just selling. What does that tell everybody about what's getting ready to happen, right, Joe?
Yeah, and again, the insiders. When you see the insider selling, and it's usually what you'll see is, hey, I'm the insider for company, XYZ, and I know what's happening at my company. This is a little different because what we're seeing is bank CEOs, bank CFOs, the guys that are in the power positions at these banks, selling bank stocks across the board, Jason. It's not, hey, it's just Wells Fargo, or it's just the those mid-sized banks, those regional banks, or it's just these small banks. It's like the entire industry.
Well, and it kind of reminds me a little bit of 2019. Little different situation. A ton of bank CEOs and big corporate CEOs retiring. Tons of them just getting out in 2019, right before COVID and right before market catastrophe. And here we are now with big bank CEOs deciding to liquidate. Maybe they're not leaving. Maybe I don't know about how many years you can get new CEOs to replace the old ones, Joe. It seems like 4 years. So it's like, well, I'll tell you what, sell your stock and keep the job, but you're gonna have to ride this one, dude. But go ahead and make your money. That's what this one feels like. It's like, well, how many CEOs can they run through the stable?
Right, and again, I think how many more of these banking problems that we need to continually talk about. Isn't this what the central bank was supposed to do? Aren't they supposed to be watching over these banks, sleeping at the wheel? I feel like we got lucky that we didn't have another bank get merged or go under this week. But the news continues to be tough. Wells Fargo. Now, Wells is one of the big ones. Now, they've had plenty of trouble. Listen, Wells is just like them all, right? They're all, they all got rap sheets. Seems like a mile long. But customers reported that Wells Fargo, their checks were disappearing from their accounts, their direct deposit checks. The people were complaining all over social media about funds disappearing, and they said that their deposits were going in and then miraculously disappearing, bouncing checks all over the place. They were trying to pay bills. Nothing would go through, and the company issued an apology, Jason. But this is the second time at Wells Fargo that they've had this issue in just the last couple of months, where all of a sudden all of this money just disappears from people's accounts, and they can't pay their bills, can't pay anything, and it's amazing how this continues to happen.
If it's not the work of a saboteur, a hacker, or whatever they want to call it, it sure has the funny feeling of someone testing something out, doesn't it, Joe? Because why would that even happen? Somebody actually has to type on a keyboard, right, to make that happen? You know, or is this going to be blamed on? This could be blamed on AI just thinking for itself. You know, but to me, somebody has to actually do this to make this happen.
Well, you know, I'm sure that they'll give you, oh, well, we were doing an update. Yes, we were updating our systems, and something went wrong.
It's the computer's fault.
People trying to pay their rent, right? Patriot Radio News Hour. We'll be back after the break. Welcome back, Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason on this Monday, and I know it can be confusing out there. It can be tough to know what to do. The biggest thing, Jason, is making sure you have that money spread out. Leaving your money in your bank account is just, you're asking to lose it. You really are. And again, I know that the Wells Fargo story, oh, well, it was a glitch and this and that. A glitch is one thing, but I'll tell you right now, when you're not able to access your bank account, even if it's for an hour a day, a week, right, those are things that for most people, hey, they don't have any other alternative. You got to have your money spread out. Don't have it all in the bank. Have it with Joey. Make sure he'll have it protected for you. Have your gold and silver put away. It is vital. Listen, this digital currency is coming like a freight train. And then let's not forget our friends over at Refi. You're talking about great rates of return. They're fixed up to 10.25%. And guess what? It doesn't care. I don't care, right? The Dow can go up 1,000 points, down 1,000 points, up 5,000, down 5,000. Interest rates can go through the roof. They can collapse. Quantitative tightening, quantitative easing, it doesn't matter. You can rest easier at night. Check them out. InvestYRefi.com. That's the word invest, the letter Y, REFY.com. Or call them at 888-YREFI24. And remember, as you guys know, you got to have at least $50,000 to invest with Refi. You can use an existing IRA. Some of you can use a 401k. But I got news for you. You think inflation's going away? Well, I've been warning people about power bills, right? How high they're going to be over the weekend. Texas power prices surged 800%. 800%. And they said that the electricity prices on the grid rose to more than $2,500 a megawatt hour on Sunday evening. That was up from Saturday's $275 for a megawatt hour. Jason, these are things that the average person out there, right, you don't even know. Right? You're running your air conditioner, it's hot. Next thing you know, that power bill shows up, and something you were expecting, I don't know, $300 or $400 bill. Remember the stuff that happened in the UK? Companies were getting $10,000 bills. They were shutting down. It was actually better for them to shut down and not produce anything than it would be to run with power prices. We're not there yet here in America, but Jason, it's shocking when you sit there and you say, what? Power prices were up 2,500% on Sunday night.
It does kind of make you feel like somebody doesn't want Texas to have their own power grid, doesn't it? Kind of makes you wonder that they're going to try to break that up. You know, I mean, we only have 3 grids in this entire country: the Texas grid, the East grid, and the West grid. And it makes you wonder some of that tough talk of Texas becoming their own country again, and all that, that's bubbling up. Makes you wonder, right, Joe? Yeah, you make their power bills unsustainably high, and suddenly things change suddenly. And That's because I haven't seen that here. Not saying it won't happen here, but it sure seems like Texas is having the majority, the lion's share of the power problems in America right now.
Yeah, it really is. I think there's probably a lot more truth to that in not wanting them to. This is kind of the way the government works, right? Hey, you don't want to do what we want you to do. Well, that's okay. We're going to figure out a way for you to have to pay a lot more for whatever it is, and then eventually you'll come crawling back, right? Of course, Texas also one of those states that really wants to start pushing gold and silver to be legal currency again, and can you blame them? But not to be. I thought that wasn't bad enough. The UAW. So we know, right? Yellow Freight's out of business. 30,000 people out of work. How much more expensive is it going to be to send partial loads? Because that's what Yellow did. But the United Auto Workers, for the big three, said they want to get a new contract which expires in mid-September. So they got what? A month? 5 weeks? 5 weeks or so before the contract is up. Well, let me tell you what this was the entry level proposal here. The union demanded a 40% pay hike for its workers over a 4-year period. And the UAW said that, hey, with inflation skyrocketing, the cost that these auto companies are making on their, whether it be the SUVs, the cars, the trucks, hey, we can't even afford to buy our vehicles that we're producing, more or less put food on the table, Jason. They want a 40% increase in their pay.
I think everybody would like a 40% increase in their pay to keep up with what's going on. I mean, how far is the average American in pay versus the World War II generation, right? Even the people in the 60s and the 70s. How'd you like to have a salary that matched expense back in those days, Joe? And here we are. I mean, you got multiple parents. If you're lucky to have a two-parent home, both parents working at least one job, usually one parent working 2 or 3 jobs. And that's just to try to so-called make the American dream, right? To have a house, have a decent neighborhood to live in. And are these wage increases, like you were saying, Joe, that this is what really propels inflation. If people can't buy, it's a good indicator, because if people can't buy the stuff they were normally buying, they need more money to buy it. So wages are pushed because companies, if you're even a medium or a small company, your employers are coming in and say, I can't even buy groceries this week. It puts pressure on management at these companies. Like, well, if our employees can't buy groceries, they're going to be coming into work in stressful situations, and they won't be able to perform. So we got to give them more money, and then so on goes the cycle, right, Joe? So very clear indication of inflation is still here.
I'm going to just tell you right now, we're going to get an inflation number Thursday, and then we'll get another inflation number right before the rate hike. Now, this is going to be, because there's so many, you get confused as to which one. This will be one of the higher readings. They're expecting overall inflation on Thursday to be about 4.7% annualized. We've had numbers, Jason, in the 3s. Just a different gauge, right? A different gauge, a different way of measuring inflation. This will be the one that is, I guess if you want to say it's the closest to reality, that will be coming out Thursday. But wage hikes does not bode well for inflation down the road. We'll be back after the break. (800-951-0592) Joe and Jason, Patriot Radio News Hour, and it's such a mixed bag. It really is muddy right now, and I get why people don't know what to do. We had that jobs number Friday that was low, but not horrible. 187,000 jobs created. That's the lowest number going back to December of 2020. But I told everybody that the previous 2 months had been revised lower. Come to find out, every month this year was revised lower. Kind of interesting. The hours worked. This was another one of these things Jason and I have been talking about in this slowdown. All of a sudden, people are getting less hours. You know, people went from, man, I was working overtime. I was working 50, 60 hours a week. Then it was, well, I'm working 45 hours a week. And now they're like, man, I'm not even getting 40. I had people in all week last week, whether they were buying, selling, whatever they were doing, and the stories were, yeah, I'm working less hours. I got my hours cut. Or, hey, my friend or my relative, they just got laid off. It's starting to happen, and it's starting to appear in the data. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, in last week's jobs report, the number of people working full-time fell by almost 600,000, the biggest monthly drop since going back, well, since COVID, right? Obviously, when you shut down the entire economy, you're going to have that one out there. But the BLS said that full-time jobs crashed in most of the employees that were hired. Jason, were hired for part-time jobs. So, according, kind of the devil in the details on the BLS number looks like, and again, we'll see, is this the trend, right? Less and less jobs being created every month. All of a sudden, the jobs that are being created are only part-time jobs, and the jobs that we're losing are full-time jobs. This is kind of the early signs, isn't it, of another one of the logs on the fire of slowdown, and yet at the same time, we just had the UAW saying, hey, we want a 40% raise.
Yeah, and I think that affects some of the job loss numbers the Fed's been looking for to slow down the rate hikes. Is that it's a little more complicated. People are working multiple jobs. You can have a job loss, but you still have employment. The guy has 3 jobs, he loses one, he's still employed. You can't count him as an unemployed number. If somebody is working a job and his hours are cut, well, that's not unemployed. That's less money, right? And so what does that guy do? You cut his hours. He was working 40. Now he's working 25. Well, he goes up and picks up a part-time job, and then suddenly the new jobs numbers go up by 1 because some guy got a part-time job to make up for what he was cut. So it's all this stuff will show it's the weight of how bad things are, Joe, when they just start cutting people like Yellow. Yellow Trucking is they just cut 30,000 jobs. That's what's going to be happening soon. Some of these small businesses, medium businesses, even some of the large businesses are just going to start cutting and slashing jobs when they just can't carry the weight of how bad their businesses are performing because people are not buying stuff. Joe, people are just not buying stuff now. They have come to the end of it. They are pinching pennies now. It's happening again, just like in 2008, the years leading up to that crash.
Yeah, exactly right. And that's the great thing. We can help you if you're on a budget. Today we've got rolls of silver quarters today. At $200 a roll. If you buy a quarter bag or more, that's 25 rolls. You buy 25 rolls or more, Jason will take them down to $195 a roll. So again, this under that $100 level. We were under that $100 level on dimes last week, under that $100 or that $200 level on quarters, because you get twice as many, right? You get twice as much silver when you buy a roll of silver quarters. So rolls of silver quarters, 40 silver quarters, pre-1965 silver quarters, $200 a roll. Buy 25 rolls or more, Jason, we'll take them down to $195 at 800-951-0592. And we're kind of, we're sitting there and we're watching the markets kind of freak out a little bit because all of a sudden the narrative they were hoping for is starting to change again now. All of a sudden, wait a minute, here comes the debt tsunami. Of course, we were telling you a month ahead of time. We told you all of July what was coming in August. I don't know why they're so surprised about it. Here's the realities, Jason. What they announced last week, give them another 60 to 90 days. There's going to be another announcement. It's going to get even bigger from there.
I agree with that. And the silver quarter specials, what a great way to match up what you may have bought last week with your dimes, right? I mean, it's good to have the different levels of coins, the dimes, the quarters, the half dollars, the dollar coins, the silver eagles. So this gets you a chance at practically the same price point as those silver dimes we sold last week. I mean, it is for the $100 a roll dimes. This is $200 a roll quarters. And, match it up, right, Joe? Match up whatever you bought in those dimes. This is a way to match it up in quarters and keep on stacking silver.
You know, it's something where, and it sounds, it's for some people, they're like, oh my gosh, that's just crazy talk. But when you're talking about, hey, I may need to use it as money, having divisible material is an important thing, because when you're in a situation where you have to barter for stuff, it's amazing. Well, I don't have any change, right? Hey, you're gonna have to pay me extra because you don't have the right denomination. That's what these dimes and silver quarters and dimes are for. 800-951-0592. Jason and I will wrap it up right after the break. Eight 800-951-0592. Today's special rolls of silver quarters, 1 through 24 rolls, $200 a roll. That's 40 silver quarters for only $200. But we'll do one better. You buy 25 rolls or more, we'll take that down to $195 a roll at 800-951-0592. And it's, I don't know if interesting's the right word, but I remember when I first started, and we used to talk to people, or people used to tell me, yeah, I'm buying this utility silver, this junk silver, because I may need to use it someday. I may need to use it as money. I may need to deal with the biker gang or the local militia that's in charge of the territory that I live in. And you don't want to show up needing some eggs or some chickens with a $20 gold piece. Right? Because two things are going to happen. Number one, the biker gang ain't going to make you any change. And number two, you make yourself a target. And I was sitting there thinking, man, these guys are crazy. These guys, they're all whacked out. These guys sit in their basement. They got the tinfoil helmets on. I mean, that's what I would, listen, that was 20 years ago. Fast forward to today, those guys were right. This is coming. There is no doubt this is coming, where the government is going to very soon start telling you what you can and cannot buy, what you can and cannot purchase. And certain things, if you purchase certain things, you're going to be put on a list, and this, that, the other. If you're going to want to be able to buy what you want to buy, I think, Jason, it's a necessity. You're going to need things to barter with, and dimes and quarters, they're the perfect thing, because that's for all your small stuff, right? Hey, maybe I need one box of ammo. Maybe I need a couple of chickens or a dozen eggs or whatever it may be. You want to have that small stuff, because if you only got the big stuff, if you only got the $20 gold, the $10 gold, right, that's going to be an uncomfortable situation, because you're going to let people know, hey, that's a guy that hey, he's got a lot of gold over there, and makes you a target.
And on top of all of that, which is a great reason to have it in certain situations, it's savings, and it's protected savings against inflation. You should just have it there for savings. If you're not saving money, you're in trouble before you even think about buying gold and silver. So by buying gold and silver, what you're saying is, I want to put something away as savings for any emergency. Because Joe, how many times have people sold gold and silver to us that have been Patriot customers that made their life so much easier when that little minor emergency or middle-sized emergency happened, and we were able to just handle that for them.
Yeah, and that's the really at the end of the day, you're talking about, hey, the price per ounce. This is the best price in government hallmark silver that we have today. So really, like Jason, you know what? You got it's dual here, right? You're putting that savings away when you invest in gold and silver, and in this case, you're putting it away in something that, hey, it could have another use if things really get sideways down the road.
Yep. 800-951-0592. Quarters at $200 a roll. And what's a $195 a roll if you get a quarter bag or more. That's 25 rolls in the quarter bag. So, Joe, it's a great way to shore up your savings and pull a little bit of that riskier money out of the bank.
There you go. God bless everybody. Listen, Jason and I, we're coming right back with the Half Empty Cup.